What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today in the world of indie games, we're going to be checking out Drox Operative 2. This one's kind of a special case, so I don't know how many of you guys have played Soldoc games before, but in a lot of ways, Soldoc is kind of like one of the OG indie developers. Back in like 2008 or so, 2007, I remember seeing their game Depths of Peril on the shelf without much fanfare at a Best Buy, and purchased it just because, like, I've always been a little bit of, like, an Epicurean like that. Like, if I see something weird back in the day at a game shop that's, like, out of place, I would buy it. Because, like, who knows? You might have that one copy of this weird game that nobody's ever heard of, and it was the pre-Steam days. And so, anyways, they are famous at this point for making games that have, like, bad graphics, a terrible UI, but for whatever reason, they always end up being more than the sum of their parts. Like, they always end up actually being really, really fun games. I've played pretty much all of their titles. I've played Dins, I've played Depths of Peril, I've played more or less everything that they've put out, and I've always kind of had a good time. And so anyways, the caveat at the beginning is that this is very much a Soldoc game. Soldoc has that in common with Arkan games, where they make games that are not particularly pretty. They make games where the UI can be an absolute nightmare, but for whatever reason, they always end up still being fun despite those flaws. Today's feature is Drox Operative 2, the sequel to the popular first Drox Operative game, where effectively the entire premise of this game is that you are a member of a group called the Drox, and the Drox are effectively kind of like a shadow cabal of mercenaries, like hilariously overpowered anime-level mercenaries that kind of run the galaxy from the shadows, effectively. And so the idea is it randomly generates a universe for you, and it's an action RPG. This game it's Diablo with spaceships. But imagine a game of Diablo where all of the cities in Diablo were playing a 4X strategy game without you in the background. Like, they were all trying to exterminate and conquer and take over things and colonize planets and stuff like that, and, like, going to war, and it's your job, effectively, to kind of carry out the will of the Drox Council amidst the chaos of a forming galaxy. And so anyways, at base value, this game is an action RPG that is all about stacking loot and getting better stats and finding better, more cooler stuff as you play. But it's got kind of like this layer of 4X strategy going on behind it that you only interact with as a mercenary, but you still need to be passively aware of if you want to be, like, successful in the game. And I think that that's a very, very appealing concept. I put about 4 hours into this game prior to the recording of this video, and I found that I did have a really, really good time. So if you can let the presentational aspects of the game slide, which are all kind of straight out of 2008, I think you will find a good time here. So let's dive on in and play the game. We're going to make a new ship right here. Your ship is, God, the human portrait looks like a guy from like a Cialis commercial. I felt like my life was on hold. I no longer have to wait. He's like always drinking wine for some reason. Why is it with like the boner pill commercials that they're always drinking wine? Like, they're always like sitting at like a fancy upper middle class table drinking wine, wearing an unbuttoned collared shirt with a blazer. Anyways, and we got to pick our race here. Every single race basically has a dedicated stat that they're really, really good at. That they get bonuses for kind of putting things into that stat. We've got humans, we've got dryads, we've got utopians, we've got the fringe, we've got the hive, we've got the drac, the lithozoid, the cortex, the shadow, the brunt, and the scavengers. On top of that, there's also young races, but I haven't unlocked any of them after like 4 hours of playing, so I don't know exactly how you unlock the young races, but you can think of the young races as like effectively being sort of like city-states in the context of like the greater 4X conflict going on between these empires. And so anyways, my favorite ship is the Utopians because I like flying around space in a rectangle. I don't find any of the other ship designs to be particularly aesthetically pleasing, and I'm going to be looking at it for the rest of the game. And so anyways, I do like the Shadow ship, but these guys are basically space slavers, and like I'm not down with that, so like we have a real problem on like an ethical level, but like on a style level, we're kind of gelling. I also like the Scavenger ship. It's okay. But we'll probably go with the Utopians since they are my favorite. And then we need to go ahead and name our ship. All right, I've named my ship the Tofu Royale. We will fly our rectangle, and we will fly it well. There is a background on all these races. They all stand for different things. They all have different attributes that sort of dictate how they interact with one another. For example, the Dryads, they are xenophiles. They love other races. They are pacifists, which means they don't go to war. They can only inhabit boreal planets, paradise planets, ocean planets, and Terran planets. Everybody's got different stuff going on, basically. The Hive are indifferent to other space species. They really only care about their own stuff. If their name is in red when you're going over the top of these, that's basically kind of how hostile they are. I don't know. That's how I mentally sort of catalog it. But you tend to have the Drac. They tend to be kind of aggressive. The Brunt are aggressive. The Shadow are aggressive. I don't know about the Cortex, in all honesty. Anyways, there's also a bunch of side things you can do over here, hardcore modes. You can be unlucky. You can start out with a ship that has no equipment. There's a bunch of, like, random things you can play around with if you want to make the game harder for yourself, but since I'm somewhat new to the game, we'll all leave that alone. Basically, the way that this works is that you pick the difficulty of the sector that it's going to be procedurally generating for you. If you're a new player, you start out down here, but as you get better and better at the game, you're allowed to start it off basically on higher prestige levels that make it much more difficult to start, but, you know, your ship is leveled up and it's a bit stronger, so, like, you're good to go there. We will go ahead and we will call it a medium sector size. We will say that there are 7 races. I tend to actually set it to 7, just due to the fact that, like, if you put it on random and you get a game that only has 3 races in, like, a medium-sized galaxy, it's going to be a really empty game. There's not going to be a whole lot going on. We'll actually put it on 10, I guess. You can decide how developed the empires that pre-exist are, so you can leave it on random. You can put it on home planet only, which is bare basics. Every single race starts out with 1 planet and has to expand from there. You can put it on early development, which means they normally have, like, maybe 2 to 3 planets per little star system inside the sector. And if you put it into established, you're walking into just a meat grinder of a game because everyone's going to have everything populated. The entire thing is just going to be sprawl, and you're going to have to figure out how to navigate that. I'll probably put it on early development just to make things a little bit more interesting. We can decide what kind of galaxy we want. We can have a new galaxy, which means that things are going to be clustered closer together. You can have an old galaxy, which means things are going to be, like, spaced out further. Doesn't really matter. I don't know what the last galaxy is, though. You can also decide on the shape of the sector, just in case you've got one that you feel makes you happy. I'll leave it on disk for right now. There are cataclysms. So cataclysms are really, really terrible events that can happen to the empires that very much either shake up the economy, they shake up sort of the fundamental order. So, like, somebody's home planet might get hit by a giant meteorite, and that's obviously going to scramble everything in the systems that they control. It's going to mess up it's going to mess up everything. It's stuff like that. Viral contagions, things of that nature. There's also an exploration mode, just in case you wanted to cruise around the game on your own, and there's going to be a lot less enemy spawns. But remember, this is Diablo in space, so you kind of want that enemy difficulty. Once you level up your ship a bit, you can actually go up to higher difficulties to make the game more interesting. There's also challenge sectors, although I haven't done any of these, so I'm going to resist the urge to speak on it. But anyways, let's make our sector here. Okay, I'm going to hide the help topics, and taking a look, we have started out in Nenmark, Iraq. I'm going to call it Nenmark because that's easier. Really, at this phase of the game, all we need to do is fly around and just sort of chart things and figure out where everything is at. And so, like, for example, over here we have a lithozoid planet. The lithozoids, I don't know if they're warlike. It looks like they are actually first in food harvesting. So they're doing pretty well over here in Washagurgi. We can go down, we can talk to them, we can get quests from them, we can trade with them, we can spy on them, we can spread propaganda to destabilize the planet. Remember, you aren't a part of any of these factions. You are a Drox Operative, which means that you are trying to aid the cartel in sort of shadowy moving the margins in galactic politics. And so a lot of these buttons are not going to be relevant until they become relevant. Like your council tells you to go destabilize a planet because they want some other faction to conquer it, or something like that. We can trade, we can get quests over here. As you can see, the UI very, very kind of OG and like messy. But if you can tolerate that, I do think there's some fun here. Now, on our ship, I believe we start out with a laser, right? So we've got a cheap ramjet drive, we've got a cheap laser, okay, that's on our left click. We've got cheap deflectors, we've got electronic computers right there. I think we can move some of this stuff around to our race-specific slots. That way we can free up the actual core hard points. We have a viral slot right here from what I remember too, and then I need my viral weapon to be on my right click. There we go. And then that right there is for Utopian crew members. Okay, we're cleaned up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and rearrange everything real fast. These are basically just consumables. They're potions for our stats that are up here in the top left. So we've got our shields, we've got our armor, we've got our structure, and we've got our energy. Energy is effectively ammo for your weapons. With your structure, that's basically like the internal components of your ship. If it gets hit, that's really bad. It's going to degrade your gear inside of here, and you're going to have to repair it. You've got your armor, which takes damage before your structure does, and your shields that take damage before your armor does. And so anyways, things to keep an eye on. We're not going to worry about quests too much. I may scan a couple anomalies and see if I can get some XP. Oh, apparently there was a stash of credits inside the anomaly. Nice. Oh, it's an ambush. It's an ambush. Okay. Wipe out some of these bad guys over here, see if we can get some damage off. Luckily, that actually worked out really, really well, but because any enemy that's in the vicinity of a planet that's owned by a faction, if you kill those enemies, they will just reward you for it. You get reputation, and then there will also be kind of like every planet has like an invisible quest where you get rewarded for the amount of things that you kill that are enemies to that faction in their sort of orbit or area. And so anyways, we just got a bunch of free stuff. We got some XP, and we got some cargo bay, actually, which is pretty good. This cargo bay right here is going to add some more slots that we can hold things inside of on that side. Meteor. Sometimes the meteors drop dust. Oh, it dropped a shield recharge. Okay, I'll take that. Let's continue cruising around and sort of charting this little star system, and let's figure out where everything's at. There's going to be space junk laying around. There's going to be lootables. There's going to be anomalies that give you, like, XP and stuff. You can interact with as many of them as you want to interact with. It doesn't really matter. Unfortunately, we got irradiated, so my structure got chewed on a little bit right there. Kind of a bummer, but that's the way it goes. What was that you just picked up? A thermal imaging gear. Oh, okay, so there's trade goods. Occasionally you'll pick up like gray items that are like trade goods. You don't need them except for when planets request them. So giving you an example, one of the factions might actually try to colonize a planet, right? But the planet might have destabilized tectonics, and so they'll request an item for you to fix that problem so that the planet becomes more profitable. It's just a part of, they're just random little items that you use for general purpose questing or selling for money. Another anomaly, a little bit more money right there. I do wish you could change the font size on these notifications right here, or like move them. I think having a customizable UI in this game would be a really, really good idea, because when you get into fights that are very much centralized around the factions, you can get so much message spam that it gets in the way. You can customize the message dispensation to your liking inside the options, but you can't change the font size, which is the one thing that I actually wanted to do. And so anyways, we've got unexplored planets over here. It looks like this place is run by the Lithozoids and the Hive. Are they getting along? Do they like each other? Oh, they haven't interacted at all. Okay, so the Lithozoid and the Hive are kind of neutral about each other right there. This menu right here is where you're going to spend a lot of your time just contemplating relationships and like what you want to do. Basically, this is your relationship. You're the Drox. You're always up here at the top. The little line is your relationship with these groups based on coloration. Red means they don't like you. Green means they do like you. There will also be a secondary dotted line that goes along the inside right here that implies any treaties or protection acts or trade pacts or anything else that exists between the various factions, but not relevant for right now. Let's go ahead and we will take a look at coordinated wars. What does that mean? Uh-oh. Thubra. Who are the Thubra? Are they a minor race? Oh, dude, I think we might have just discovered a minor race. Let's see here. The Thubra are mammalian. Due to long years of conflict, they have developed a strong sense of paranoia about outsiders. Okay, so they are a radical, militaristic, xenophobe, Terran mammalian species, and they value freedom. Okay, Well, they don't hate us. They're not huge fans of the Hive due to proximity, but like that's the way it goes. We can look through some of the stuff that we have over here and see if any of it is a good upgrade. It's really not, so I think we could probably get away with selling some of this stuff. We'll throw that over there. We've got a budget laser cannon. All right. And as you can see, anybody you trade with, you get reputation with that faction. So my guess is those little dudes right there, I don't know how we actively look at the minor races, or if you even can. Oh, they're primitives. Gotcha. Okay. So they are the young races. Okay. Well, I mean, they have a planet. I don't know if they're spaceborne yet. I know that, like, they can be a part of, like, a different phase of development, basically. So, like, some people will be, like, in, like, the Bronze Age. Some people will be, like, in this digital age when you find them, but they haven't quite gone to the stars yet. Just sort of depends. I would guess that the Thubra are probably going to get wiped out by the Hive. The Hive, not huge fans of sharing moons and borders and things like that. So I've got a feeling things are not going to work out for the Thubra, especially given the massive power imbalance. I think the AI is definitely going to notice that. Oh, they're machine age. So they're kind of in their industrial period right now. Their industrial revolution. We got some more deflectors, fast charge deflectors over there. I'm going to continue tooling around and looking at space junk, and if anything interesting happens, I'll phone back in. We did get a mission from the Drox Council, so priority 3 important. So there are 6 victory conditions in this game, just like a 4X game. This is an action RPG that you can actually, like, win. And so anyways, one of the victory conditions is that you do a certain number of Drox guild quests, which allow you to kind of ascend up the ranks and become kind of a guy in charge for the Drox because you get things done. There's economic victories, which means you make a ton of money for the Drox. There's going to be militaristic victories, which mean that you ally with everyone you can and kill everyone you're not allied with. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to win. There's a couple ways to lose as well. The most simple one is getting exploded. And so, you know, try not to get exploded, but looks like we have a pirate space base over here. So let's go ahead and introduce them to our lasers. Ooh, he fired something big at me. I don't know what he fired, but he fired something. If we can wipe this out, chances are we may get rewarded by one of the factions. They don't like it when there's pirates in the area. This game has kind of a curious system of questing where you don't have to have a quest in order to complete that quest. So, like, if you just randomly destroy stuff as you're flying around, when you go back to the factions, like when you check right here, if they have a little exclamation point next to their icon, you can just call them up and solve whatever quest you may have accidentally done. It's a little bit loosey-goosey of a system, and it can lead to, like, messy things happening. So, for example, for a little while, you might have quest-specific items dropping off of mobs that you're killing, but you don't know exactly what they go to until eventually it'll be like, oh, yeah, that's all we need. And then all of a sudden, oh, there's another base over here. Okay, let's go ahead and duke it out with these dudes real quick. It appears as though, oh, my lasers are locked onto the station. Gotcha. I just got to dodge their fire then. We can swap targets, but, like, I'm lazy. And we've leveled up to 2. Very nice. So what happens when you level up? Well, when you level up, you get stat points. Oh, we found a nuclear mine. We found a technology, and we found a chip. Okay. The chips are basically gems. You slot them into other items. We should probably take a look at some of this stuff that I've been picking up. We got another cargo bay right there that gives us radiation resistance, which is decent. Nuclear missile actually does quite a bit more damage, but it takes up a heavy slot, and I like my heavy slots. I don't really want to move my heavy slots around. We did get a new crewman right there. It looks like he gives us helm and computers. Computers is our racial main stat, so we get a fat DPS boost for every point of computers. And then he's also a marine, which means that we can send him to board enemy ships, but I don't think I've ever done any boarding operations. So honestly, I don't know. We've got some quantumite right here. Apparently, if you give a faction some of the trade goods, they do things to the, like, everything you sell to factions in this game, they're going to deconstruct and they're going to do research on if they don't have it. They are scrounging for kind of technological victories over each other, just like you would if you were playing something like a 4X game. And so anyways, stuff like quantumite, any faction that you give it to, it's going to buff up their units in various ways inside this sector, and it's going to like aid their war efforts if they are actively engaged in any type of war. I do like scatter cannons, but that's also heavy. There's a wave cannon right there, but it doesn't deal very much damage. We've got a power plant. That's what our ship is missing. Our ship doesn't have a power plant, dude. Okay, so that'll give us 49 power load. Power load is effectively, if this meter fills all the way up, your ship stops working right. And every single thing that you slot into your ship takes up power load. And so having a good power plant's a really good idea. I feel like that's a pretty solid choice. We've got a nuclear missile right there. We've got a budget deflector. It's got really good regen, but it takes up a huge amount of power load. Actually, does it take up... So that takes up 10 power load. Oh, it's because it hasn't been installed yet. This meter should fill up once the installation's done. There we go. All right, well, we've got a much better shield now. It's got like 30% more capacity, and it regenerates way faster than our old shield. So that's good. And so I think that's pretty much everything that I want to play around with right now. I'm not a big fan of missiles and mines, so they can be shot down. I tend to stick to kind of like projectile weapons, laser weapons, plasma weapons, that kind of stuff. Another derelict hive ship over here. Some money, some plating. Is it light plating, though? What kind of plating is it? It's medium plating, actually. We'll identify it. Yeah, for sure. We'll install that. That'll give us an armor meter right there, just in case we kind of drop the ball and end up letting our shields drop on accident. I'm going to keep cruising around. Yeah, so this system is out for problems. Washagurgi and Leah and Ocutus are all 3 capital planets because of the star right there. And so this is going to be a drama sector. So one of 2 things is going to happen. The Hive and the Lithozoids are going to ally, and they're going to expand out from here and hit the other factions. Or they are going to go to an early, very violent war with one another over who gets to survive into the mid-game. That's pretty much the way I see this playing out. The Thubra will more than likely get caught in the middle. It may come down to whoever takes this volcanic moon right here, which I can almost guarantee you is going to be the Lithozoid. Because the Lithozoid faction, they can colonize any planet. They're basically made out of silica, so they're resistant to everything. So they can live on toxic planets, they can live on pretty much anywhere. Whereas the Hive, they have sort of constrictions on what they can go after. So my guess is the Lithozoid, because they are expansionists, they're going to take Vorgus down here, and they're going to take Bahu. And once they take those 2, it's going to panic the Hive, and I would guess they're going to go to war. Jump gates are how you move around. Now, the jump gates are kind of an interesting system, and it took me a little bit to figure out exactly how the jump... There it is right there. What did I say? I told you. So we really kind of got to decide who we want to side with. I like the Lithozoids a little bit better than the Hive, and so I may declare war on the Hive, although the Hive may have some kind of pact or alliance with other factions that we have not yet met. So it may be a good idea to open up a trade thing. They actually don't have any contacts, so it appears they may be in isolation. Have the Lithozoid met anybody else? They can unlock a jump gate in Scorabania for us. We can unlock the jump gate from here, but in order to unlock a jump gate, you got to fly up to it and click it. And if you don't have a way to get out of the system you start in because none of the gates surrounding it are activated, you've got to use the diplomacy system effectively to get them to unlock stuff remotely for you. What can make this trade possible? 227 credits? Dude, that's like nothing. Yeah, I'll confirm it. So now we can go to Scorabania if we want to and get out of here. I will sell them planetary data. They will give me 3 credits for that info. And require me to give them 1 credit. I mean, I'll probably hold on to it. What we could do, though, is I don't know how much this planetary... We can go with a non-aggression pact. We can't commit to it. Okay, they probably don't like me enough yet. Once I do some of their quests and stuff, it'll probably be all right. These guys, apparently I inadvertently did quests for them, so thanks for destroying minor harbingers. Cool. And then a Nematos uprising, and we destroyed them. So apparently we solved problems for them without even knowing it, and they're willing to extend an olive branch and basically help us out. So, like, what I would think about here is I would like to unlock some jump gates, and they'll allow me to unlock jump gates for 200 credits. Before we declare war on them, I kind of want to get everything out of them that I possibly can in order to make my life easier. And so the gates are now unlocked in those other places, which means we should have places where we can jump out. if we don't want to get involved in this war. I kind of want to keep an eye on the Lithozoids, though, because they're a peaceful race, but they're also kind of like a don't tread on me race. So, like, they don't actively go to war aggressively, but they will defend themselves. That makes them kind of rare in the context of this game. Most of the races in this game are either warlike or peaceful, not like in between. I tend to try to keep the Lithozoids and kind of go along with whatever their politics are doing, just because they're kind of the interesting option. There we go. I had picked up a quest. They wanted me to blow up some stuff. And so anyways, there we go. Made the place safer, and we have leveled up again. Now, leveling up. Coming back to leveling up. What can you do with leveling up? Well, you get points every time you level up as soon as these messages go away. Like I said, wish I could move the UI around or, you know, get rid of some of the stuff. But anyways, we've leveled up. Basically, we have tactical, helm, structural, engineering, and computers on our ship. And these all dictate, like, different types of objects we can equip. On top of that, they also give you statistical bonuses. So, for example, for our character, because we're a Borg-like race, the higher our computer skill is, the more attack and defense we get. I'd like to take everything up to 10, though, because a lot of gear requires 10. So a lot of armor will require 10 structural. A lot of weapons will require 10 tactical. A lot of engines will require 10 helm. And so, like, I like to get everything up to 10 real fast so that I have a lot less item limitations on what I can equip. We have picked up some stuff around. We've got another crewman right here that gives us computers, so we'll slot him in. And we've got, what does the neutronium do? It gives them a bonus to armor. We can kind of passively influence this war if we give a bunch of our minerals to the Lithozoids. Now, that leveling up is not the only thing you do inside of the game. There's also the tactical skills screen. Every time you level up, you get some points. It works kind of like Titan Quest. You put points into your baseline command, and what that will do is it'll go up, and as it meets these different thresholds, it'll unlock these tiers, and these tiers all do kind of different stuff. Now, by and large, most of the skills are passives. There are some actives around, but anyways, there's different stuff here, but most of them are passives, and they allow to sort of curate your experience. If you want to use lasers, there's a laser tree. If you want to be really good with ballistic weapons, there's a ballistic weapons tree. You know what I mean? You can play around with a bunch of different stuff here. You can also expand the hull slots on your ship, so your ship will slowly start getting larger and more grandiose as you put points in. So, like, I can get another, I need 204 credits. But anyways, if I spent 4 points right here, I would get another light slot for a crewman. And the next, I'll get another medium slot. Then I'll get a heavy slot, so on and so forth. So your ship does develop. However, this is kind of a slow burn action RPG. It is Diablo in space on top of a 4X management game, but it does unfold very, very slowly, and I don't know how much that'll hold. I think there's a certain grouping of players that will be able to overlook some of the problems this game has with regards to its UI design and, like, really, really enjoy it, because there's not a lot of games that have ever attempted to do something like what this game is doing. But then on the alternating hand, I think a lot of people will straight bounce off of it as well, because they'll be like, what is this, dude? This game is ugly. The sound effects are terrible. The soundtrack is awful. Like, you know, this, that, or the other. Like, this is one of those games where the core game is really, really good. It's just all the supporting stuff is kind of, like, rough. And that's, like, the definition of Soldoc. Them and Arkan, they're the two developers that do that repeatedly, where sort of the support systems to their game are really, really rough and, like, terrible looking, like the UI or the sound design, but, like, the game itself is actually really, really fun. There's a couple more ships down right there. And so anyways, I put about 4 hours into the game. I think it's a lot of fun. I've been enjoying it, but it's definitely, you're going to have like a bit of a thick skin to get past the stuff with this game that is, you know, really, really out of date with regards to, like, modern design, gestalt, and strategy. It just kind of is what it is. Let's jump over to another system real fast. We got a couple minutes left to play the game before we jump on out. You do get a stash, Diablo style, that you can put stuff in. Unfortunately, you can't just throw stuff into the slot. You have to get cargo bays that expand it, and then you can put things into your stash and into your shared stash with all of your other ships, basically, that you're playing. We can teleport pretty much to any of these places that we want to go to. So if you wanted to know the power distribution, it's the color of the name. And so if you look right here, this place is half controlled by the Hive. This place is half controlled by the Lithoids, or the Lithozoids. These are Hive systems over here that we've unlocked. So the Lithozoids and the Hive are kind of squared up right now. It doesn't look like... Can I get to Scorabania? Yeah, let's go to Scorabania real fast and just see what we can do for the lithosoids and see if we can help them along with their development. Wormholes, they take you somewhere randomly. At some point, diplomacy is going to break down in this game, and people are not going to be willing to work with you, and they may have control of very, very key warp gates that you need. Going through wormholes, which randomly send you to other systems, is how you find and activate things if you don't have access to a key. This is usually also why I start... There's mutant ants on Kopi. Oh, they eat up the food and they slow your population growth. Gotcha. Explore these real fast for XP. Come on. There's a research facility. Oh, cool. We got computers. Computers are good. They just basically give you attack stats. So we've got 26 defense and 60 attack, but plus 22 power load. I like it. Throw it on in, man. That's a pretty significant boost over the 13 defense, 27 attack that we had previously, so I'll take it. We're going to need to land, and we're going to need to trade with these guys, and we need to sell them some stuff. And so I don't want to sell them my minerals just yet because I'm waiting to see how the politics play out. We have a nuclear reactor upgrade right there. That has a chip slot. I'm going to identify all real fast. What does that do? Radiation resistance. Do I have any other chips that are any good? Oh, I got another cargo bay. I'll throw that in. Cool, man. More storage is always appreciated. A planetary education network. Planets may need these occasionally, but they aren't useful to a Drox operative. Okay, sounds good. I will ignore at my peril then. Okay, so I've vented my inventory with these guys, which gave us a bunch of reputation gain. I would suggest maybe we run the neutronium and the quantumite back to that system that they share with the Hive, and maybe give that to them so their ships get a little bit of a boost. I also equipped a double laser that we have that had a couple more DPS than our... Oh, that's bad. I tried to block it with my ship so that the meteors wouldn't hit the planet, but yep. No way around it now. You guys got minerals? Adamantium. There we go. We can finally start our own X-Man project and create Space Wolverine. Spulverine. He is the one we need for the dark times ahead. But my name is Splattercat. This is a hard game to condense into like a 30-minute video because really the meat and potatoes of this game is like an hour to 2 hours to 3 hours in. And that's when you really start to get involved with galactic politics. And that's when you start running missions for the Drox. I mean, but this is a game that there's a lot to bite down on into if you're able to ignore the presentational aspects of the game that are obviously somewhat behind the times and kind of out of date. But I do think it is a pretty cool game. I've been enjoying it. I enjoy, you know, action RPGs like Diablo. And so I'll play just about anything with that premise. And then on top of that, adding kind of a strange layer of extra gameplay to the top of that, I feel like was a very ambitious and unique idea. And so I'm all about it. Drox Operative 2. My name is Splattercat. I sift through the pile to find what's worthwhile in the world of indie games every single day so that you don't have to. Today up on the chopping block, we had Drox Operative 2. Tomorrow we will very likely have something else. Don't forget to check out the Discord. Don't forget to, you know, leave a like on the video. Helps me out as a content creator. But other than that, I'll see y'all tomorrow with something hot and fresh off the indie skillet. Bye.